Hey, we're live. Okay. Should we close the windows real quick?
I don't think anybody heard.
Let's close the windows.
It's gonna get really hot.
Yeah, we'll fly through these.
Oh, sure.
I mean, what's worse, hot or take that trash out, boy?
I mean, it's not like anything profane was being said.
Well, we say profane things all the time. That's not the issue.
I say way worse things than you hear out there.
Yeah, it's true.
All right.
We are live.
We are live though. Okay. Oops. There we go. Oh, and I got the thumbnail right. Jeez. Let's go. Okay. Wait for the troops to get in here. And oh no, that's fine. Okay. Oops. Okay. Oh, there's a Dina. There's a Dina in here. Anybody else in here? If you're in here, please type 0 in the chat and then leave because we hate you.
Oh, there's Dan.
Dan, you would think Dan's here, but I also said if you're here, type 0 in the chat, and he did not type 0 in the chat. So, Dina is here, Dan is not.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's how that works.
Dan also doing the typical white person tradition and saying "Hola" on Cinco de Mayo.
Well, you know,
a timely white holiday.
we gotta do what we gotta do. I had a burrito for lunch. I did my part.
Good. Thank you for doing your part, man.
Yeah.
Might have a michelada later. Help out the white people in the community and help celebrate their holiday.
Yes, sir. Technically, that is 0.
That is.
Okay. Shall we begin?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. So here are our. I didn't have time to double check these. Did I get everything right? We got everything right. Yeah, we got everything right. Okay. We have. Well, in the sword division at least, we have quite a few matches that are just like. Were just basically blowouts. Most of them, actually, all of them.
I know we ended up losing this week, and I was just like, "Oof!" At least we didn't get blown out.
Yeah,
we could have
holy
been.
Shit. We don't even really. I mean, at least I don't really have all that much to say about these first 3 games in Sword Division because they were just so like I said, massive blowouts, right? The first one, Po-Tay-Toes and the SoCal Cheek Drillers, it was just. The beat up Mimikyu lead with the Justified Arcanine, and the Arcanine just blew shit up. It's just Dynamax Metagross went down immediately. It was very hard to stop, especially since the Rotom ended up missing a Hydro Pump, which because of the helping hand, I think it might have mattered.
I think it did.
It might have killed, even though Sun was out. But
I think. At that point, the Drillers had too much resources for them to deal with.
That's true. Yeah,
So.
I think they probably still lose. It was just the differential was rather extreme, probably because of that.
Exactly. It just allowed the Arcanine to just really go through them.
Yeah, and even I also will give the Drillers props for switching out the Arcanine, even though it was boosted up when it was really low HP. They switched it out, brought in the Pikachu on the Electro Web, and they were able to finish off the rest of what they had without taking an extra KO. The only Pokemon they lost was Blastoise, so that was pretty good. So yeah, fantastic game from them. Oh, I also should mention when we Alyssa and Henry came in clutch. That's for sure.
Yeah, for those who don't know,
just watch the match if you're not sure. It's all linked in the description. There's a link to Alyssa's Twitch VOD in there. Yeah, Alyssa and Henry came through for sure. But I also want to give them props for the scarf on the Mimikyu, actually, because as we were watching, we noticed that the Mimikyu moved before the Latias, and we thought, okay, well, it's either Scarfed or they EV'd their Latias badly. I figured, probably Scarf. I was not really convinced of the utility of the Scarf at first, because I figured, like, well, yeah, it helps you outspeed the Latias, but, like, what exactly is the Latias going to do to you? We later learned it was because of Bulldoze Latias, which if you break the disguise and lower the speed, then Mediocre is going to be able to just kill it without the beat-up going off. So Choice Scarf, especially because it's a ghost type, so it can't get faked out, Choice Scarf was an excellent decision there. I
White
really
Herb.
love it. Yeah, the White Herb on the Arcanine doubles as a remedy for the speed drop on Bulldoze or the Intimidate from the Torracat. Either one works for either one.
They were doing it specifically for the Bulldoze stuff, and then I think they did lead Latios, or no, they led. It
was Latios and Mediocre.
Was it Latios Brenigos? Yeah. So the good prep on their end, because they knew that that was what could have been very effective against them. And they put specific items on their Pokemon that just allowed them to beat that combination.
Right. And the Latias ended up going for Tailwind instead of Bulldoze, so they still had that speed control, so Mediocre is still going to move off. The difference there being that the Mimikyu had a little more insurance against that since it was moving first every time. So they were still able to... The speed control isn't even really what mattered. It was more the ability to just wipe out the Mimikyu immediately with a Bulldoze. So... that was an excellent lead, excellent prep from them, and it was still, despite the speed control in turn 1, it was still a huge blowout. So, yeah, good shit.
So that was 5-0 or 5-1?
I think it was 5-0.
Yeah.
I think they killed all of them.
I think they killed all of them, yeah. And then another 5-0 was the Dark Web Porygons versus the Sadistic Seniors here. The Seniors, they led with the Starmie Porygon Z. Something that after we looked at it, we were like, man, that's actually a really good lead from them, because there's not a lot that they could have led out that was going to be able to stop just like an Icy Wind plus Max Strike going into slots. I believe their moveset was Psyshock, Ice Beam, and Hyper Beam, so that gave them the Max Psychic. But pretty much it's pretty straightforward. They got their Dynamax going, they burned down one entire side, and then it was Garchomp with 2 E-tiers in the back.
Oh, yeah.
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 And the Garchomp was already at -2 speed.
Yeah.
The Porygon Z was out there on the field next to Clefairy. One thing that I will say is I thought the moveset on the Garchomp was pretty interesting because it didn't handle Porygon Z and Clefairy next to each other at all. And the reason why is the moveset was Earthquake, which is okay, Dragon Claw, and Shadow Claw. And the problem is that they couldn't go for any type of neutral attack without it being redirected. So if you go for the Shadow Claw into the Clefairy, you're not getting anything into the Porygon Z. You have to target down the Clefairy. And if you're going for the Dragon Claw into the Porygon Z, you're risking that being redirected into Clefairy and just being immune. So the only thing you had for it was Spread type Earthquake. Something like Iron Head, we talked about it during the match, something like Iron Head, Poison Jab, any of those moves would have done way better, because then at that point it's like, well, we'll just Iron Head into the Porygon Z, and if they redirect it, then that Clefairy has to eat an Iron Head, or it has to eat a Poison Jab, And the fact that they didn't have that, they were just able to leave it alone, burn down that entire side, and with just Garchomp and 2 E-tiers, they really didn't have anything for it. But because they brought 2 E-tiers, we kind of talked about this, they're already out of the playoffs. They're probably trying to meme stuff up and maybe some weird baton pass shenanigans. Who knows?
I doubt it.
With Cub Fu. I don't know.
I think they just know they're out, and they were kind of just like, fuck it, we'll bring 2 E-tiers.
Yeah.
Like, they're not even E-tiers that really have a chance at doing anything. They're just kind of there. So, yeah, that was kind of a weird showing, but makes sense, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, they just didn't have... I think they probably just led with some Disquake stuff and just kind of went brain dead mode and threw a couple of E-tiers in the back, and that was sort of it.
Yeah.
And it just didn't have any kind of matchup against one of the seniors' main modes, which I wouldn't really be surprised if they weren't even really trying to get a matchup against that, because the E-tiers are just kind of an indication that they threw in the towel from the start.
Yeah.
Next up, we've got the Raiders versus Mudkips. This one was probably the most straightforward match of the week. I don't really know what to say other than the Raiders set up Trick Room in front of a +1 Glastrier, and they thought that burning it would have done enough to stop it, and it didn't because it's Glastrier and it was boosting. Yeah. Like, it ended up being +2 burn, so it's just back to neutral, and 145 base attack is still monstrous. Yeah. They just had Iron Ball on the Colossal and figured, hey, we're slower than Glastrier, let's set up Trick Room and burn the thing, and it just, that's, no.
If maybe they maxed it and were able to get, like, a max flare off and guarantee the KO on Glastrier, which, by the way, I don't even know if that KOs. Probably isn't a great idea either, because you're not, like, it's Colossal's main form of offense really comes from the weakness policy being activated.
Oh yeah,
its stats are pretty bad across the board.
It's good. It has good defensive stats, but like it's base 80 on the attack and special attack. Yeah.
So I don't even know if that does it, because Glastrier has some pretty decent bulk, and
if
you're risking one assault vest on there, which I don't believe they ran this time, but if they do, then it just. It goes.
Oh no, the horse did have assault vest.
Oh, was it? So yeah, see,
yeah,
like, they probably did that. That's good prep by them, knowing that special Colossal could be an issue if it gets going.
Yeah,
because they didn't even try to set up Trick Room, so they were like, if they get Colossal up, go ahead, get it up. It's fine. We're not really worried about it.
I also, another point I want to make is that if room service is enough to underspeed a particular mon on your opponent's side, it's just objectively better than Iron Ball, because you basically get the best of both worlds. You can build it to outspeed the min speed Ice Horse outside of Trick Room, and then when Trick Room activates, then you're slower. So you can bring in. You don't have to set up your own Trick Room for the Ice Horse just so your Colossal can underspeed.
Yeah.
You can bring it in and outspeed it initially, and then in case the Mudkips were to set up Trick Room, then you also have the ability to underspeed. So Iron Ball should be reserved for when room service is not enough to underspeed a particular threat. Yeah. So that's part of what killed them. I don't know if it would have been any better if they had used room service and didn't set up Trick Room.
It's something that they're not clicking.
Yeah, they could have done something else on that turn, but at the same time, Glastrier still can max Quake into the Colossal slot, and it'll, I doubt they win anyway, because they seemed just horribly unprepared for the horse, which is insane to say when you're going up against something that has a draft that has Glastrier on it, but
yeah.
Well, there it was. So that's kind of all there is to say about that one.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, Glastrier came in, did what it needed to do, and then we didn't have a blowout. Finally,
the one non blowout.
I mean, we got beat pretty good, but
yeah,
but like we didn't get blown out.
I'm still having nightmares about that second turn.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things is we ended up leading Clefable plus Magmortar, and they ended up leading Entei plus I believe it was Wartortle, yeah. And I mean, we tried to go for some Calm Mind shenanigans with the Clefable. It ended up not working properly. We the Entei with Eruption plus Helping Hand support was really able to kind of put down a lot of offensive pressure. We were able to get Trick Room up and put offensive pressure back, but because of positioning, we had to take certain risks, like taking double protects that could have swung the game, but ultimately we were put into a position that we had to go for them. Particularly one at the very end with Marowak, to where we could get it set up in Trick Room again. Grassy terrain, I believe, would go away, and we would have been in a pretty decent spot to continue.
We just needed Comfy to fall asleep from the yawn. That's why we needed the double.
So it would have been pretty good overall, just to kind of continue off of that. But stuff like that happens. Sometimes we in general felt like the matchup could be a little bit tough, but we figured, we try this mode out, see if we could get anything going off of it, and we didn't see anything on their team that could really break through a boosted Clefable that has Dynamax capabilities. So
Yeah, we just didn't play safe enough with it.
yeah, and sometimes that's kind of one of the problems in general in best of one is you tend to get a little bit greedy because you want to just get going and get, you know.
Well, it was more than
Steamroll.
greed. I mean, we were afraid of a Dynamax once the max slot
Yeah.
had shifted over to Entei because we didn't know it was Scarf. It's naturally faster than Clefable and Magmortar anyway, so even if it was Scarf, I'd be a little bit afraid of it maxing anyway.
Well, I mean, ultimately the play probably would have been to protect that turn, obviously.
Right.
So when you choose going into the Calm Mind with Clefable instead of just going for the Protect, that's why I say particularly greedy. But you know, at the end of the day, they did good prep. They were able to kind of maneuver around out of the Trick Room because we were able to get Mew transformed into Copperajah, and those two under Trick Room were able to do a lot. Another thing that kind of put us in a tough position was we really needed the Copperajah to go first and not the Mew.
Oh yeah.
To KO the War Turtle. Obviously, they had to speed tie. There's no way that they weren't going to be able to speed tie because we transformed into ourselves.
Yeah.
So it was a 50-50. We needed the Power Whip to go off into the War Turtle, so that way the Stomping Tantrum could go off into the Entei. The Stomping Tantrum ended up going off into the War Turtle, and then getting redirected. The Power Whip ended up knocking out the War Turtle again. So the Entei was able to basically stay at full health and continue to put pressure down, which made it tougher coming out of the Trick Room.
Yeah.
But ultimately, the Eruption, Scarf, Entei, Inner Focus, you know, so that way it can't get faked out. With good support from the War Turtle was a really good play by the Delibirds. They ultimately played very well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Moving on, we got Team Pussy and the Mats. Do you want to take this one?
Yeah. This one was probably the better game, one of the best games of the week. You know,
Oh yeah,
just
for sure.
went fantastically
As expected with these two.
Came down to a few things, honestly. So Team Pussy ended up leading with the Cinderace and with the Diggersby. Diggersby we assume might be banded. We'll get into that a little bit later. And then the Mats ended up going with the Gengar and the Gardevoir. A lead that they just got completely outled 100%. I think they might even talk about that in the video.
Well, they did have Quick Claw.
Oh, you're right. They ran Quick Claw Gardevoir, and their ideal play, which it honestly was their ideal play, it was to go for a double Hypnosis.
Yeah.
Reason being is because the Gengar was sashed, I believe. So you either had to double down the Gardevoir, and then the Gengar gets the Hypnosis up because it's sashed, or you double down the Gengar, and the Earthquake by itself isn't going to be enough to knock out the Gardevoir, so the Hypnosis goes off anyway.
I think they mentioned in their commentary that they were bold Gardevoir.
Yes, they were bold max defense Gardevoir, I believe.
So is that I assume that's enough to live a Banded Earthquake?
I mean, it lived Banded Earthquake.
Are we sure it was Choice Band, though? I didn't do the calc.
I didn't do the calc either, but the Airstream next to Earthquake, they love running Banded, or they love running Choice Item Diggersby.
Yeah.
Or like Life Orb. We never saw any Life Orb damage come out. I believe it was found out that Hector says nepotism. Yes, of course. Ben and Vichy, they're Matt's kids.
Allegedly.
Allegedly. But yeah, the Diggersby typically likes to use like some type of boosting item, whether it be Scarf or Band. I felt that next to the Cinderace, it didn't necessarily need a Scarf. So because of that, I think Band probably was going to be the optimal play. So they ended up going for the double Hypnosis. They landed it, got it on the Cinderace, and were able to kind of work their way back into the game a little bit there.
They were fucked if they didn't land that.
Yeah, one of the things that Ben and Vichy do so well is that they have like 3 to 4 turns where the pressure is like, or the offensive pressure is against them, the momentum is against them, and they're able to take those turns and make them into neutral turns. So there are times where a lot of other players would continue to snowball and continue to snowball. Vishy kind of gets labeled as like a hyper offensive player a lot of the times, but kind of observing his matches this season, and last season shows me how well prepped they are from like taking the opponent's offense, slowing it down a little bit, and then allowing them to start gaining momentum again. So we saw this, but by the time the Cinderace came out, it had only knocked out 2 Pokemon, I think, and it was basically just the Gardevoir and the Gengar, stuff that was taken down to the red in turn 1. So the fact that they were able to mitigate that to where you could easily get, when you take down 2 Pokemon down to the very red like that, where they literally can just get touched and knocked out, that easily snowballs into like 4 KOs, 5 KOs at the end of your Dynamax, because you're continuing to put that pressure down on both slots at all times. The fact that they only took 2 shows really good play from them in general. After that, they were able to bring the Blaziken back in, have that next to the Indeedee. I questioned it a little bit if it was necessary to switch the Blaziken back out, because I think it slowed down a lot of their momentum. They swapped in the Swampert at one point, and what that did was the Indeedee at one time was at full health next to a speed boosted Blaziken. By the time the Blaziken got back in and the Swampert had already fainted, because the Swampert really couldn't do anything, it got hit with a Sludge Bomb, got poisoned, and then I believe it got hit with another move that I can't remember. It might have been Heavy Slam or Shadow Ball. Oh, did it get Shadow Balled? Okay. Yeah. So it was basically down to red. It went for a Bulldoze onto the Celesteela swap in. Didn't really do anything to it. And at that point, the Swampert just went down. The Blaziken came back in. They went for a Swords Dance, but at that point, the Indeedee was already down to the red. It had already taken way too much attacks.
The Indeedee was low enough to get knocked out by a Scald from the Mantine, and then the Celesteela pulled out an Air Slash.
Yes.
Which apparently the Blaziken was pretty bulky, so it was able to take it. Not well, but it lived, and it was still it wasn't even in the red. It was still in the yellow.
But they had to max it. They ended up maxing it.
Yeah.
Because they had to.
Right.
So with Life Orb too, all that stuff is really crucial, because Life Orb, they were put into a position where Life Orb damage would have KO'd them. At least they played that way. We kind of figured that maybe they had one more attack to get off with Life Orb.
Well, I think you're talking about when they went for the double max guard, right? Yeah. I think what they needed to do was get the double max guard and attack something with Haxorus and hope that the Togedemaru went into the Blaziken, because they needed to preserve. They needed to have both Mons on the field to actually keep hitting stuff. And I don't know actually what was behind the Mantine. Was it the Diggersby still?
No, I believe the Diggersby had already went down.
No. It was the Diggersby.
Yeah, it was. You're right.
So, and I think that they were still wondering about maybe a Choice Scarf. So maybe they weren't. I don't actually know. I don't remember the end of the game too well, but I think they just needed to preserve their offense, and they had a tough time doing that because they had 2 Mons on the field that were both very, very low.
Yeah, and one of the issues too that we were talking about came into play was Haxorus got crit on the Ice Beam from the Mantine.
Oh yeah.
On the Dragon Dance, did like a good 70% to it, and basically put it into range of a Togedemaru Iron Head. I've ran Togedemaru a bunch of times. It doesn't knock out Haxorus if that Ice Beam doesn't crit. The Iron Head maybe does 25-30% max. Haxorus has a decent defense stat, decent HP stat. I don't think it knocks out there.
Right.
But because of the crit, it came down. The Haxorus was only able to get off a Dragon Claw, which didn't knock out the...
Just barely. Barely not enough.
Barely not enough to the Mantine there. It went for the +1 Dragon Claw into it. Barely didn't knock it out. And then the Iron Head just finished it off. That just left the Blaziken. And that was pretty much it. I mean, the Blaziken just died to a Flare Blitz into the into the Diggersby slot, and was over. The Togedemaru didn't even have to do anything. It was just had to be on the field. So ended up being 1-0 to Team Pussy. This is a series that I feel is going to be fantastic if they meet in the playoffs. So I'm really, really, really looking forward to seeing them play in the postseason, particularly in the playoffs where it's best of 3, because I don't know who would have won, but I just would like to see 2 more games of these guys.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, just being honest.
I'm also interested to see what kind of transactions Ben and Vishy end up making before playoffs, because
Yeah.
they did some crazy shit with their transactions last season. I wonder how much they're going to change things up this time, if they do. So,
And the Hacksters has really added a new dimension to their team. Almost making Reggie Drago a little bit... Reggie Drago's usage has fallen off a lot since they picked up Haxorus.
yeah, I mean, I understand not bringing
Yeah.
it this week because there is a Celesteela with a potential wide guard, and they have a really powerful fairy type in Hatterene.
Hatterene.
So, like, I get not bringing it this week, especially if you wanted to bring Haxorus is better in this matchup anyway.
Oh yeah, its coverage is fantastic for this
Yeah.
matchup. I mean, compared to Reggie Drago, where you're just launching dragon attacks pretty much. So
Yeah, for the most part, there's a couple other things it can do, but I don't know how good is like a Dragon Dance Firefang set when your other option is blow shit up with dragon energy.
yeah,
So it'll be interesting to see what they do. But yeah, that was a good game, probably the best game of the week. 1-0 finish for these two teams is very, very fitting.
Yeah.
Considering their history in the league. This is this is actually a finals rematch from season 3.
yep.
So
And Hatterene and Haxorus were both on those teams as well.
they had Haxorus back then too.
Yeah,
I know they had.
that was the season that they beat us.
Right. No, I remember that.
Remember they dragon danced
yeah.
the Haxorus?
Yeah, they did.
And that's how they sealed it up for him.
Yeah, they did. Okay. Yep. Yeah, now I remember. Yeah. So they've got a history with Haxorus for sure. Vishy does especially making cut with it in Dallas. So
Thank you for reminding me, Ben. They ran non-psychic surge in DD, so they can have fake out. So the moveset was, and Indy took 2 KOs too.
with psychic.
With psychic.
Who
yeah.
runs psychic on Indeedee anymore?
Well, when you don't have a psychic,
Who
surge,
doesn't run psychic surge on Indeedee and now?
when
Like,
you have fake out,
who runs fake out on Indeedee? They do. That's
they ran. They didn't click it, but it was. I saw it in when they were switching over teams, and I was like, "Wait a second, that Indy doesn't have psychic surge."
Yeah.
And then you were like, "I think it might have fake out," and I looked, and I was like,
Right.
"It does have fake out."
Yeah. Yeah, so that's like I've seen fake out on Indeedee with Psychic Surge specifically to fake out flying and levitating Pokemon. I got to give credit to Maxwell for that. Maxwell of the St. Louis Booloos. He had Indeedee in the other league that we play in. He's done that a couple of times. But not running Psychic Surge on your Indeedee specifically so you can fake out anything is a new level of insane. So, but you know what? If anyone's gonna do it, it's them.
Well, I mean, you're going against Hatterene too. The last thing you want to do is set up Psychic Terrain for him.
That's true. Yeah. I don't even think Hatterene came out, but if they had it, I'm sure they would have put Expanding Force on it. Yeah. So, makes sense. Yeah. Anyway, moving on. Anything more to say about that one?
Yeah, you think Team Pussy didn't bring Hatterene because I was talking it up last week, and they're like, "Great, thanks. That was our game plan. Well, let's scrap it and build something else."
Well, that assumes that they watch these
That's true.
videos. So
It's like Skip Bayless. You assume that people care what you think.
yeah. Anyway, moving on to the Platinum Pixies versus the Ally Switch Spammers. This one was...
Did you say that only Sword Division had blowouts?
I don't think I said that.
Oh no, wait, this
wasn't a blowout.
No, this wasn't.
Yeah, none of these were blowouts.
No, just Mudsdale just went off.
Mudsdale just happened to get all of their fucking kills as usual. I'm gonna talk about that a little bit, but we'll get there. So the leads here were
Regigeezers, Drizzile, and
Right,
Munchlax, Lucario.
they were pretty straightforward. They were doing soak stuff with the Scarf, Drizzile, and the Reggie. And then there was redirection next to the Belly Drum Munchlax. There are two things about this turn one that I hate, one from each side. Number one, okay, why did you not put Focus Sash on your Lucario? I found that so upsetting, especially because you're going up against a team with Cinderace and Regieleki, two massive, fast offensive threats. That are both going to outspeed Lucario easily and just blow it up, especially if the Reggie maxes. Cinderace can do that even easier because of its type coverage. But and then whatever's next to it is just left to hit the Munchlax. That's not so good. You need a Focus Sash so you can take 2 hits. And then from the Spammer's side, I feel like in that situation you have to anticipate the Focus Sash on the Lucario, so to go for the Soak and Max Lightning would just... I hated it, because if the Lucario was Sash, which it should have been, then you're locked into Soak, and so the Lucario is then guaranteed to redirect a second Max move.
Okay, here we go. Tie. Safety goggles for the Tangela lead. With sinking, we might get our Heal Pulse taken. You got Heal Pulse on Lucario?
I assume that's what that means. I still don't like it. I don't like it at all. I don't think, especially for a mon like Lucario, I don't think you should be relying on Heal Pulse. The Wax Max turn 2 is the original plan. Yeah, okay, that's fair, but if you're not doing... Okay, if you're gonna max your Munchlax on turn 2... This is my second gripe for the Pixies. If you're going to max Munchlax on turn 2, why the fuck did you not put a berry on it? You're supposed to use it as a pseudo Snorlax, like a budget Snorlax. You're supposed to have a pinch berry with Gluttony on it when you belly drum. That's going to heal you much more than a Heal Pulse will while you're Dynamax. It's only 25%. The berry's 33%. So, and you still want to be able to follow me that second turn on if your Lucario is still alive. So, just put the berry on the Munchlax and put the Sash on the Lucario. It's just so much better for so many situations. It's
good game plan. Okay, so here's what I loved, right? Because
hold on, I'm not done.
The Lensdale win.
You know what? I'll get to the other stuff later. Go ahead.
I feel that this one was like, you know what? Again, me thinking that people care what we think. Right for this? They say that we max Mudsdale too much. Not gonna max Mudsdale. We're gonna max Munchlax. And then that got blown up, and they're like, all right, fuck that shit. We're just gonna max Mudsdale. And hey, you know what? Let me just say, Water type Mudsdale went in.
Yeah, I mean, it was kind of a double-edged sword because, like, yeah, it was good.
Stab.
You lose the stab first of all. It was good when the Azumarill was out because it ended up hitting a liquidation into it, and of course it was water type, didn't do much.
Yeah.
So that was good, but then the Reggie came back in later and was able to Thunderbolt it and almost killed it. It would have killed it if it wasn't for Light Screen.
The great Light Screen. I really liked the play just in general from the Spammers. I thought this was a very good game played as well because they were able to kind of withstand a lot of the offense. When the Mudsdale came out, it put down a lot of offense, particularly with the +2 Earthquakes that it was throwing out after the Swagger Head came out, and then obviously it was +2 when it was maxed as well. So all that, they were able to withstand the offense and then be able to reposition the Regieleki and the Drizzile again with a lot of resources still in the back. I believe they still had 2 Mons each in the back, or a Mon each in the back.
No, all they had was Cinderace in the back.
Okay, so either way, you still have Cinderace in the back, and they came in for free. You're able to reset and do this whole thing again out of Trick Room, and the Light Screen was just fantastic because the Haze came out, boom, got rid of the defense boost, and it's like, oh man, that's gonna matter a lot. And then the Light Screen went up, and it's okay, then it's not gonna matter as much.
Yeah, the Haze was okay. I don't know. I mean, it was good because you're getting rid of the special defense boosts. It's a little awkward on a Scarf Mon because as we saw the following turn when Regieleki went down, it was just stuck in. It didn't want to switch in.
There was nothing they were going to be able to do if it's scarfed.
Yeah.
Are you putting anything special on Drizzile? An attacking move? Is an attacking move even good in that situation? Probably not. They got as much what they could have out of the Drizzile in general.
Depends on what the attacking move is. If you want to fish for a burn on the Mudsdale, maybe, who knows? I know. It's not great. I mean, they didn't really have, like, even with the Haze, they didn't really have any good options there. The positioning was just not in their favor.
Yeah. It was in their favor had the Light Screen not come out. Because the Light Screen doesn't come out, and then you just switch back into...
Yeah, but of course Light Screen's going to come out. I mean,
Yeah,
that's one of the things that Klefki does best.
Yeah, they haven't not ran that either.
Right. Speaking of Klefki, like I know it didn't hurt quite as much this week, but like it just the end game here gave me flashbacks to the Pixies game against Team Pussy because it was the Klefki Slowbro against a Cinderace in the end game in both games. And I noticed that I'm pretty sure the Klefki in this match didn't click any attacking moves. All I saw from it was swagger and screens. I clearly didn't have an attacking move when they played against Team Pussy. It seems like that's their usual mode with Klefki is just run the typical status moves. But like there were a couple of situations where an attacking move might have helped them here, and definitely a couple of situations where an attacking move might have helped them in that scenario against Team Pussy. I think they need to start considering running at least putting Dazzling Gleam on that Klefki.
That I'll agree with.
Maybe Flash Cannon, just depends on the matchup. Maybe you want one or the other. Maybe you want spread damage. Maybe you don't. Whatever.
I don't know how much Drizzile Scarf locked into any type of an attacking move would work, but particular Pokemon like Clefairy with Dazzling Gleam, Clefable with Dazzling Gleam, Klefki, just anything that can chip stuff down is honestly really helpful in a lot of situations.
Yeah, it's just like when you have one slot that just cannot click an attacking move, when maybe all you need is for it to just chip something, something's in the red, or like it's down to Focus Sash or something, and I just need to click this Dazzling Gleam. All I need is one fucking damage, and sometimes that really helps, and like I don't know. It might have helped a little bit more here. They won anyway, so like it's okay, but definitely would have helped against Team Pussy. So that's just something I saw again on the Klefki that I might like to see a little a difference on in the future. The last thing I'll harp on is that I understand that the original plan was to max the Munchlax and not max the Mudsdale, but this I think is maybe more just a weakness of their draft, not so much a weakness of how they're playing. The Munchlax is not quite as reliable as something like a Snorlax. There's a reason it's down. It's down in in the D tier. Ty says he brings Dazzle half the time. Okay, fair enough. That's good. Maybe bring it more than half the time. But half the time is at least more than I thought, so that's good. Maybe more than that though. What was I saying? Mudsdale. So it might be a weakness of the draft that you're kind of pigeonholed into maxing Mudsdale a lot of the time. It's not Munchlax is not something that you can rely on maxing very much. We had a number of different situations where we thought we could have maxed Munchlax last season, and it just never really panned out. It only ended up hitting the field like once.
Yeah.
Because it's just not it's not all that reliable. So I think going into this last week and going into the wild card matches, if the Pixies happen to make it, they need to look at what other options they have to really get out the kind of offense that Mudsdale is putting out when they're doing the swagger stuff. Because like a lot of their success has come from this self-swagger stuff with the Mudsdale and the
Slowbro.
Yeah,
had
but
a KO in the end there.
Yeah, I mean mostly the Mudsdale though, because that's the thing they're maxing.
Yeah.
That's the thing that's picking up most of their KOs. I think if they're going up against some of these top teams, they're going to be a lot better at countering that Mudsdale stuff, kind of the way that Doesn't Click was. So that's something that they definitely should start looking at. Maybe even for their Week 11 match, but also going into playoffs if they happen to make the wild card round, especially because they can make some transactions before the wild card round starts.
Yeah.
So the draft just seems like when you look at the draft, it's like, what are you gonna max aside from Mudsdale? Almost.
Yeah, only because Palkia can't.
Right. Right. Exactly. Like you almost never max anything else.
Yeah.
Largely because
Palkia can't. Lucario's not pigeonholed. I don't want to say that, but typically you want to use it like as a support Pokemon, like Follow Me, Helping Hand. Self-proc weakness policy with like Mach Punch, Bullet Punch. I don't think it's Mach Punch, but it's Vacuum Wave. But you can do stuff like that. Like it's
You only really want to max Lucario if you have a faster beat up user.
yeah, like justified stuff. Yeah.
Right. And then like maybe Beware, I guess, maybe Slowbro, but probably not. It's mostly just down to that Mudsdale, and that's what we're seeing in their matches, and it's doing well.
It's working.
But it's not gonna work forever, and it's not gonna work against everybody.
Yeah.
So that's my point.
If they can make it into a water type every now and then.
Maybe.
Hey.
So anyway, that's my Pixies rant. That's all I got.
All right, next one was the Jurors versus the Geezers. We saw this match started off going...
Patrats and Booloos, that one didn't happen because
Yeah.
the Patrats are kind of MIA except for no Glocka.
Yeah, exactly.
That's it. Anyway,
That's why
continue. Yeah.
Jurors and the Geezers started off really quick. Victini picked up 3 KOs, ended up maxing it. I don't believe they went weakness policy or anything like that. They just went straight for the attacks and ended up working out really well. Knocked out the Salamence, knocked out a few different things, but ultimately what it came down to was a Jellicent. Yeah. It's something that I kind of talked about, or haven't talked about, but I've seen other teams talk about whenever they play the Jurors. This is a regular thing that they say. We shouldn't have won that game.
That's the common. That's
it's like the common theme
for
right?
their team this season. Yeah.
And you're seeing like, no offense to Dave and Austin, it's fine. You have to play how you play, but I mean they started going for the timer stall like at pretty much the 12 or 11 minute mark.
Yeah.
I think at like by turn 6 or 7, they were just like, take all the time we need. We're just going to take this straight to timer and win that way. So it's tough when I think they've had like 4 or 5 losses to timer, just, and not just like, oh, the time happened to run out. Like, no, in win cons, have them up against the wall and then the timer just bails them out. To where like they legitimately the other team can't do anything about the Pokemon that they have left, and their only option is we bring it down to timer and we just win that way. We saw it in week 1 against the Whale Lords. We saw it again against Doesn't Click. We've seen it again here. I mean, I could really go on about the amount of times that we've the Patrats, the loss that they had to the Patrats.
Yeah.
They basically had that completely wrapped up. I mean, really the only teams that have beat them really good were like, I think they played Team Pussy and then they played the Mats. And then, the Booloos too. The Booloos had a good game against them as well.
And even then, like, the game against the Mats was one play away away from them winning.
Yeah. And they brought the Mats really down close to the wire. But I think what we're really seeing is just how much the timer allows for teams to just beat them with this timer.
Right.
Like, because if you even bring it out 5 minutes, the Geezers honestly don't win that game. The Doesn't Click doesn't win that game.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
A lot of these teams just don't win these games, but because their team lacks so much offense and they can only get it out in the beginning, it's easy to stall them out and just play them out to the end. Might be worth noting that if maybe they took that early of a lead, to just immediately understanding that the timer is against them, to just go, we took a 3 or 6-3 lead. We're slowing it down. We're just gonna really, really play it real slow. We're gonna take all the time, because by the time the Geezers started doing that, it was already tied. Mm-hmm. So maybe you don't let it get to that point. Maybe you drag it out a little bit longer, so that way it ends when you have a little bit more of your resources in the back. But in general, it's just a tough way to lose. I mean, we've lost that way. Everybody pretty much has lost timer, and it's 20 minutes just isn't enough. I mean, it's just it's not. There's really no other way to put it.
The Jurors run this season kind of reminds me of Team Pussy's season last time in season 4, where they're clearly better than their record indicates. It's just that last season Team Pussy it took a bunch of really hard losses in the beginning, mostly due to hacks, and the Jurors are losing because of this ridiculous timer that we have now. So it just reminds me of that in terms of like there's some serious bullshit that that fucked them up in a lot of games that they should have won, and it resulted in a record that is clearly not indicative of how good they actually are.
Yeah, but happens happens when you have these teams, and honestly, Shannon, it's has nothing to do with the legends. It's
well, it might.
I mean, I don't know.
Like there has to be.
They have two.
No, I know that's, but I don't think that's the point. I think it's because all of the stats are bigger now. I think it ends up with just slower play in general because there's a lot more defensive shit on the field. Like that doesn't feel like a complete explanation to me, but it has to be at least part of it because the difference between last season and this season in terms of the timer, it's the same timer. It's 20 minutes. But there has to be something different because the timer is just so much worse this time, and I feel like there's something deeper other than just the presence of legendaries that's causing that. But that's the main difference between last season and this season is the existence of all of these Pokemon that came from Crown Tundra. So, I feel like there's still more reasons and deeper reasons for the timer being worse this time. I'm just not exactly sure what it all is. I don't have a full explanation of it, but it's there's definitely a big difference.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's move on. That was week 10 results right there.
Yes. Okay. Moving on from week 10. Okay. Power rankings 12 to 18. So we'll blow through these pretty quick because most everybody on here is staying right where they are. Porygons took a big loss and seem sort of checked out, so they're staying at the bottom. So are the Patch Rats since they're pretty much gone now except for one player. Then we got the Raiders taking a very difficult loss. It's unfortunate that they had to drop back down because it seemed like, at least from their game last week, it seemed like they were kind of on their way up. But I think this just shows that they can get good wins, but I don't know if they have the ability to do that consistently.
Yeah.
So because of that, they are back down here again. The Jurors again putting up a really good fight and not taking home the win. Was difficult to move them down because they put up a much better fight than the Raiders did. So we had to move the Raiders down 2 and the Pixies up 2, and we just left the Jurors where they were because their game was very close. Pixies picking up a good win against the Ally Switch Spammers. Moving up 2 spots. They're definitely a tough team, playoff team from last time, top 4 team from last season even. And then the Potatoes and Spammers both taking losses here, but we didn't really feel like we didn't feel like the win for the Pixies was enough to put them above either of these teams. They all have the same record actually, so I think they've all shown some level of inconsistency and some level of being able to play well. This 12 to 14 here feels like one single cluster to me. Yeah. And depending on the games, the week 11 games, they could shift any which way. You know, these 3 could end up in any order after this last week.
Absolutely.
Just depends on how these games go.
Yeah. Especially because the Potatoes did get beat pretty bad, but it was by one of the better teams in the league. Yeah. And Spammers played a good game ultimately, so we really can't fault them too bad for losing the Pixies like how they did. It was honestly just a really good game played, so not gonna really punish them too much there. Moving on to 6 through 11 here. The Geezers kind of staying put. We are not going to really weigh their win against the Jurors too much and against either team, so they're more or less just staying put.
I think it's significant enough. I just don't think it's enough to put them above the Booloos or the Mudkips or Willors or any of those.
Yeah, exactly. So
it's just about who's above them.
Yeah. well, like I said, we're not really going to put anything against the Geezers or the Jurors or anything like that because it's just not enough to move them ahead the Booloos or the Mudkips or the Wailords for that matter. The Wailords obviously had a bye, so it's a little bit different for them, but particularly for the Mudkips and the Booloos. The Mudkips, good win by them ultimately, but just not enough to justify either the Booloos or the Mudkips to go above the Wailords here.
This is another cluster, I think, that's 8 through 10, which, like, it's weird because the Mudkips and Booloos, I believe, actually have a better record than the Wailords by one game. So the Whalers just had such a strong start, and some of their losses came from forfeits anyway, which, does affect them, but it does feel a little bit weird to not move any of these teams around. I mean, the Booloos also did take a forfeit win, so that's, nothing super special there. The only weird thing that we're not moving in these three are the Mudkips because they took such a commanding game, but again, that seemed part of that also had to do with the Raiders kind of messing up. But in any case, 8 through 10 feels like another cluster where they could end up in any order after this coming week. So
exactly.
They seem almost like if I could tie them up at the same spot, I would make it a 3-way tie.
Mm-hmm.
So we're just keeping them in this order because that's the order they were in already. So.
And then the last two, us, the Burnouts against the Seniors. We moved the Seniors up past us. We moved us down 2 slots. Not going to go too much into how we've been playing here. What I will say is playing 2 games out of the last month isn't really as much of a blessing as we think. I play VGC 0% right now. You're playing very little. A lot of how we keep sharp is this league. So having 2 of the teams kind of just back out on us hasn't really allowed us to kind of do some of the stuff that we're used to doing, and we haven't really gotten to that flow that we usually have at this point in the year because of the forfeits. But ultimately, we think the Seniors and the other team above us, or above the Seniors as well, have been playing well enough to kind of just be in the slots, taking the slots above us particularly.
Yeah, we do have the same record as the Seniors right now.
Mm-hmm.
They did win their game against us. I feel like this isn't exactly a cluster of 3, but like I also feel like both these 6 and 7 slots could be paired together.
And they have, well, not the Seniors because the Seniors have kind of just snuck in. They've kind of made a late season surge. But particularly with the Wailords, with us, and with the Delibirds, we've been kind of floating in and out of those 6 to 7 range this entire season.
Yeah.
Or I'm sorry, 5 to 7 range.
Yeah.
That is kind of a cluster. It's nice to put the Seniors here now because I do feel they deserve to be here. They've always been one of the better teams. Just takes them a little bit to kind of get going.
Sometimes, yeah.
So I do think that the Seniors do deserve to be above us right now. And the Wailords are probably one of the more interesting teams just because we haven't seen them in the last 2-3 weeks.
Something like that, yeah.
They had a bye week this week, so it kind of makes it seem like it's a lot longer. But, we haven't seen them in a while, and we kind of have to remember some of the better wins that they had this season, which we still believe they are one of the better teams. So
yeah, for sure. All right, moving into the top 5. The darn Heckin Delibirds have moved back into the 5th slot. Again, these like you said, this 5 through 7 or 5 through 8 area, we've just been kind of mixing up these teams for the last few weeks, and the Delibirds took a win over us, so they're in that top 5 slot now. They're in the 2nd seed in Sword Division. Mm-hmm. They are the team that's most likely to stay there. I think they're after that win, they're definitely deserving of this number 5 slot. Anything to say on the Delibirds?
No, they've been playing really good. They've been a pleasant surprise in general. They've had a little bit of a tough time against some of the better teams in the league. I don't count ourselves right now as some of the better teams because we haven't really got to prove ourselves that much, So it's kind of tough to really put it out there. But against the Drillers and against the other top teams, they against the ones that they've taken their loss to, But I think that they have a solid enough team, two good players to where they can go into a best of 3 scenario into the playoffs and really show off what they have in this draft. So ultimately, I think they deserve to be in the top 5.
For sure, yeah, especially after this week.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Number 4, we got Doesn't Click.
Bye week.
Yeah, it's a little disappointing that we haven't gotten to see anything from them for the last 2 weeks because they had a bye this week, and the week before I think was their matchup against the New England Patriots, which ended up not happening. So we'll get to see them hopefully. They have a really good match this coming week. We'll get to that when we get to pick 'ems. But yeah, they're an excellent team. Just haven't seen them play in a little while, so I'm looking forward to their upcoming match. But they're staying at number 4 here. They are still one of our top teams. Moving down, actually, to number 3 is the Mats. This also, I think. Do you think this has more to do with their loss or the?
I've thought about this a long time. I honestly am really torn on both. I want to put more on the Drillers because
I think so too.
The Mats, Ben and Vichy played very well.
Yeah,
and that game was just really good. And I feel that had the Drillers just barely eked out a win, I would be very reluctant to give them the second spot because of how well the Mats played against arguably the best team in the league right now.
Right.
So I think for that reason, just how well the Drillers played has more to do with why they moved down. They took a loss. You're going to lose some of these games. It happens. But the Mats are still an amazing team. I mean, they're one of the favorites for winning for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, of course, we got the Drillers moving up after taking a very dominating win against the Po-Tay-Toes. Really, really well played, really well prepped. I love the lead, especially against considering the tools that the Po-Tay-Toes potentially had to stop what they wanted to do.
Yeah.
I love the item choices. The beat-up stuff against a team that doesn't have redirection is one of the better choices here. I think it's... I think it was an excellently played game, so they're back up to number 2.
One thing that I'll say about this, more people need to try out their draft style here, which is one that we went for last year. Their draft budget is what I'm saying, where they essentially took no S tiers, they only took A tiers. They went 4 A's, 4 B's, 2 C's, or 2 C's, right? Yeah.
Yeah, we did a little bit different last time. We had 5 B's and a D at the end. It's very much the same thing, though.
But it's essentially not taking an S tier. It's essentially going for depth rather than like top end strength and power. The reason why is that we're seeing several different things come out from them on a week-to-week basis, which is how we played a lot during our championship season. Was you didn't know what was going to come out from them. They led Pikachu Blastoise last week and just went straight for the Shell Smash stuff. They have the Justified Arcanine. The Rotom Mo has been being able to put in solid work, either as like a setup Pokemon with Nasty Plot or even throwing like Squint. The Surfetch'd has been like a nice surprise that they've been able to bring in Trick Room and put down a lot of pressure. The Aerodactyl has had its week already, only being on the team for maybe 2 weeks total. And then the Pikachu and the Fungus provide excellent redirection and allow their other redirector, Blastoise, to not be pigeonholed in that slot all the time.
Yeah. And
I think that's one of the major things too. So I think you combine all those with just like solid Pokemon like Duraludon, Mimikyu, and Slowking. They have a fantastic team. Can't wait to see them in a best of 3 in the playoff because I just think that this composition that they have here is just so good. They were probably like at a B+, which is what we graded them, right? We graded them a B+ at the beginning of the season. I stand by that grade because they had Armaldo and Exploud.
Yeah.
And I stand by it. Now this is like an A-, close to A+ team.
Yeah.
With these 10 that they have here. So I do think that it's an underexplored thing because S tiers, they're shiny, they have those high base stats, they look like awesome Pokemon to build around, and you're used to playing with them. But maybe people need to take a look at some of these other budget type things. So that's the only thing I want to say about that.
Yeah. I also, this might be a more minor point, but I actually like this budget better than the one that we went with specifically for this season, because we went with an additional B tier and then a D tier because last season the C tier was frankly just a little bit shittier. And this season, since we had this big power creep with all these legendaries coming back from Crown Tundra, there was a lot of good stuff that moved down a tier, and that included a lot of stuff that went from B to C.
Yeah.
So the C tier is quite a bit stronger this season than it was last season. So with that buff to the C tier in general, I like this this structure a little bit better, particularly for this season. And I do wonder if there's maybe some other like one other C tier that they could put in one of those slots, because they do have 2 redirectors down there, and I really like having at least one redirector there, but and 2 obviously gives them more options, of course, but I wonder if it's overlapping a little bit too much, because you're rarely going to see them bring both the Pikachu and the Fungus, but I wonder if there's something in the C tier that they could drop one of those for. So, but maybe not. I mean, they're clearly doing well with these. Yeah. Like, that might be a little bit nitpicky, but you know,
and
it's clearly a good team still.
I think one of the things too is that we were kind of forced into doing this last time because all the good S tiers were gone.
Yeah,
they decided to do that. They had the 2nd overall pick,
and they picked
G-Max Blastoise, which in like hindsight, in the moment, all of us were like, that's an interesting pick. But as we evaluated their draft, as we evaluated everybody else's draft, it looked better and better. And now as we're going into the season, we're like, yeah, that was absolutely the right pick that they had.
I just love it because Henry and Alyssa were literally 4th. They were 2 picks after them, and they were like, oh, good, we're at the front of the draft. We can get G-Max Blastoise.
And it got taken away.
Holy shit, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of love that. I kind of love it, and I kind of hate it, but mostly I love it. All right. Any more on the drillers?
Nope, that's it.
All right, and of course, number 1, we've got our only undefeated team left, Team Pussy, making a big fucking comeback.
Yep. They are absolutely just whooping ass and taking names this time. I think last season we tried to go for the undefeated season plus championship.
They were the ones that took it away from us.
They were the ones that took it away from us. We lost to them in the last week, and this time I think they actually have a good chance to do it.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah.
I
think they would be the only ones to do it. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think that it doesn't click. Of course, has won the first 2 seasons, but I don't think they ever had an undefeated season.
Yeah.
I'm not 100% sure about that. If that's not correct,
and that's an awesome accomplishment. That was something that we went for, and we absolutely thought that would be an amazing accomplishment to put on our resumes. Weren't able to get it, but if they can get it, I mean, I think that's amazing. It's so hard to go on a week to week in a best of 1 scenario and just continue to rail off win after win after win, then go into the playoffs where it's also not this time, but it's also best of 1. And then continue to do well off of that until the finals. And I think now with the best of 3, it gives them a little bit better of a chance, because I think the more games you add to a series, the more consistent the better team will come out the winner.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. All right. So there's your Week 10 power rankings. We got the Porygons on the bottom, the Patrats on the bottom, Raiders moving down after a tough loss, Jurors staying where they are, Pixies picking up a good win, moving up 2 slots. We got the Potatoes and Spammers taking losses, not enough to move them down, though. We got the Reggies, Booloos, and Mudkips all taking a win, not quite enough to move them up. Wailords on a bye. We took a loss, moved down 2 slots out of the top 5. Seniors moving up after a dominant win. Delibirds moving up into the top 5 once again after a good win. Doesn't Click staying at number 4 after a bye. Mats with a really tough game, taking an 0-1 loss, moving down to number 3. Drillers with a super dominant victory against the Potatoes, moving back up to number 2. And, of course, we got our number 1, Team Pussy. All right, pick'ems. Oh, and by the way, I mentioned this in the server. If you did not happen to catch this, there is another super secret segment that we have after our pick'ems here. So stick around. We've got a little bit more content for you after this. Which
I want to lose a little bit more weight before we do a shirtless stream, Matt. You weren't supposed to spring it on me like this.
Okay, well, I have a backup then.
Okay.
We'll,
Well, at least you have a backup. We'll do the backup.
Okay, we have a backup secret segment. We'll do that one tomorrow. Is that enough time?
All right.
Okay. Shirtless stream tomorrow. Week 11 pick'ems. Dina's really excited about that. So, our first matchup, we got the Mediocre Mudkips versus Ally Switch Spammers. This is a top 4 rematch from last season. The Spammers want it bad, dude. They want their revenge real bad. I seem to remember them being a little bit disappointed that they were not in the same division as the Mudkips this season, and then when they got the matchup against the Mudkips in the last cross division match, it was they seemed pretty excited. So they want it. They want it bad.
Yeah, both these teams have not had the kind of season they had last season.
Right.
I mean, we haven't either, so it's
right.
But so it's going to be very interesting to kind of see how this plays out this time, because I think it's a little bit more even. I think last time the Mudkips really had their number with the team composition that they had, but it's going to be pretty interesting, and I do think the Mudkips are going to take it.
Yeah. Jesus Christ. Some people are so rude. All right. Then we got the Wailords and the Platinum Pixies. This one was a tough one because, look, if we thought the Wailords were actually going to show up and prep to the best of their ability, we would probably give it to them, considering what we've seen from them. But frankly, my prediction is that they're not even going to show up for this battle, and they're just going to give the Pixies a forfeit win. Even if they do battle, it might just be another situation like the Wailords versus Delibirds, where the Wailords just showed up with like almost no prep and just kind of fell apart because of it. I gotta give it to the Pixies here because I think one of those two things is gonna happen. Fair?
Yeah, no, I think so. I think that they've been able to prep well enough and play well enough to where if the Wailords don't show up prepared, they'll beat them. I honestly think that. And we're getting comments about a hot tub stream. If this gets 300 likes,
everybody go make a bunch of fake YouTube accounts and click like on our video.
We'll do a stream with just Matt's cat.
Ooh, that's not a hot tub stream. She's not going to stay in there.
No, we'll have like a green screen background of a hot tub.
Okay. All right. Well, we got to pick up that green screen then.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Next up, we got the Potatoes versus Team Pussy. This one is rather straightforward. The Team Pussies are our undefeated team. I think we put them up against really anybody. We probably pick them, right? Potatoes are 3-6. Team Pussy's 9-0.
I mean, I like Henry and Alyssa,
but it's Team Pussy, dude.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
Drillers versus Doesn't Click. We do think that the Drillers, Allan says we're drilling cheeks this week. We do think that the Drillers have a really good chance against Team Pussy.
Doesn't Click.
Or I'm sorry, Doesn't Click. They had their chance against Team Pussy already. But yeah, we think that ultimately the Drillers are going to be able to come out on top. Doesn't Click, while they've been playing fantastic, their team is just not the dominant type team that we're used to seeing from them. Has nothing to do with them as players, because I think they're able to play their way out of a lot of situations. But when they have a good roster, they are a scary team. And that's kind of what we're seeing a little bit right now out of the Drillers. They're a combination of good players with a scary roster. And it's one of the reasons why Doesn't Click has consistently been, below them these last couple of weeks, since the beginning pretty much. So we are choosing the Drillers. We think it's going to be a fantastic game. If you thought the Mats and Team Pussy went down, I really think this is going to be one of the better games of the season. And fantastic that they pulled each other in the last week.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Yeah. Cross-division matches going to be great. So excited to see that one. Raiders versus the Mats. We got to go with the Mats here. They just have a more proven record at the moment. Raiders do have Togekiss, which could honestly put in a decent amount of work in this matchup. But Ben and Vichy have been known to just play around stuff that beats them.
The Raiders also have to use Togekiss effectively, which it doesn't really seem. Updated numbers here.
Yep.
Yeah, 5 for Porygons and 7 for Patrats, even though the Patrats have forfeited their last 3 matches due to inactivity from 2 of their players, not 3.
Mm-hmm.
Gotta give Noglaka credit. He's been there every time trying to schedule. His teammates have just, kind of disappeared. They've shirked their responsibilities, unfortunately. So, yeah, not great. But we're giving it to the Porygons because we're even more confident that the Patrats won't show up, even more so than the Whalers, because Alex and Tekka are just they're fucking gone, man. I don't know. Sucks.
Yeah.
It sucks. Next up, we got the Sadistic Seniors versus the Rural Jurors. This is a good game that, could go either way. If things swing the other way for the Jurors, then they could pull it out. They've had plenty of games where really, like you said, they should have won.
Mm-hmm.
They've just been on the wrong side of a very close game. If they can, get the right. I don't want to say dice roll because that implies it's down to RNG, but they've just happened to find themselves on the wrong side of these games. If they can happen to find themselves on the right side, then they could actually win. But the Seniors are also very good, so I'm picking the Seniors here. What are you doing?
I do what I always do, but either way, the Seniors. I think honestly they have a good squad going in. They want to try and get this win, so it's just because I know that the Jurors are out of it, the Seniors are just going to come in and they're going to really try and do their best to take the victory. And then us versus the Booloos, we always choose us. No reason to even talk about that. And then the Delibirds versus the Geezers. We think the Delibirds are really on a hot streak right now. The Geezers have taken a big fall. They did get a win this last time, but they really dragged it out to get that win. They had to scrape and claw for it. It didn't start off very hot for them, and we think that the Delibirds they're playing a lot better. So we're gonna have to give it to them, and they really want to lock up that second seed too because they have 2 teams that are right behind them. So they definitely a combination of us, the Burnouts, the Burnouts, Delibirds, and the the Seniors all want to make sure that they can win these.
Mudkips too, really. The Delibirds actually have 3 teams behind them. Mudkips have they have a worse differential than us and the Seniors, but they have the same record. So, and the head the head to head is a little funky on those, but we'll get to that in the next segment. But Delibirds are on their way up once again. Geezers have not been doing so well since the beginning of the season. Really took a lot for them to get a win this last week. So we're picking the Delibirds.
Yep.
Okay, so our next segment is going to be regarding playoff positioning and how likely each team is to get what seed, get into top 8, or get into the wild card round, that kind of thing. So first thing we're going to do is get a couple things out of the way. There's a few teams that have locked into the very top of the very bottom. So, there we go. Okay, so first off, we're just going to get these out of the way so we can talk about the teams that have more of a chance to move around a little bit. These are the 3 teams that have been eliminated from playoffs. They are not able to make the they're not able to make the wild card match. From Sword Division, we have the Rainbow Raiders and Dark Web Porygons, and from Shield Division, we have the Rural Jurors and the New England Patrats. The Porygons, Jurors, and Patrats are all at a record of 1-8, so those records by themselves are enough to exclude them from any playoff rounds. The Raiders' record of 3-6 would actually put them in the running potentially for the 6th seed in Sword Division if they had a better differential. But that -17 differential is absolutely huge. It's too much for them to overcome. They're not able to make it into the 6th seed mathematically. Even if they won 6-0 and the Waylords lost 0-6, that would not be enough to put them up into the 6th slot. So mathematically, they cannot make it even with a record of 3-6. And then, of course, locked into top 8 already, we have the SoCal Cheek Trailers at 8-1 with a differential of +26. And in Shield Division, we got Team Pussy undefeated still with a record of 9-0 and a differential of plus 22. So neither of these teams has to play in the wild card round. They're both guaranteed to get a bye into top 8. Everybody else is going to be fighting for
in the hunt.
They're either fighting for the second seed or those wild card slots. So let's start off with Sword Division. We got our top 2 teams here, aside from the SoCal Cheek Drillers. We got the Darn Heckin Delibirds at a record of 6-3 with a differential of plus 5. They are, of course, locked into playoffs, but where are they going to end up? Still don't really know for sure. They'll be locked into the 2 seed either if they just win their Week 11 match. That's going to lock it up because nobody else can catch them in terms of their record because the 3 teams below them are 5-4. So if they take another win, that's it. We can't catch them. Or they can still win off of differential if even if they lose and one or more of the teams below them end up winning, they can still win off of head-to-head or differential. And then we have us, the Amoonguss Burnouts. We are at 5-4 with a plus 6 differential. We again are locked into playoffs. We can only really finish in the second seed if we win our Week 11 match, and we have to rely on the Darn Heckin Delibirds to lose their Week 11 match. Again, like I said, if the Delibirds win, that's it. 2 seed is locked. So that's going to cause some trouble for us and for both of these other 2 5-4 teams in the Sword Division. The Sadistic Seniors and the Mediocre Mudkips, both locked into playoffs with a record of 5-4. Seniors have a plus 2 differential. Mudkips have a minus 1. They're in the same position that we are. They can potentially finish in the second seed if they win, and if the Delibirds lose, and if they happen to beat us and the other currently 5-4 team on differential. So it's a little bit complicated. It's a little bit messy right now. The seeding in terms of these 4 teams, especially the bottom 3 teams here, us and the Seniors and the Mudkips, it's really up in the air right now because a lot of it is going to come down to who wins and who loses and who's got the better differential, especially after this last week. So it's the Delibirds obviously have the best chance to lock into this 2 seed here. As for the rest of us, we're going to be fighting for that 2 seed, hoping that the Delibirds end up losing their match against the Geezers. And then, but if they end up winning, then the 3 of us are just going to be fighting for seeding in there. So, but in any case, all of these teams are at the very least locked for the wild card match. But they can mathematically, any of these teams can actually make it into the second seed. Any thoughts on this on the top end of Sword Division here?
No, just in a season retrospective, good to see that none of these teams were a surprise except for the Delibirds, mainly because they were a new team.
Yeah.
But expected the Mudkips, expected the Drillers, expected the Seniors to get in and lock as well as us. Yeah, I think it's interesting to see how the Mudkips, us, and the Seniors started off a little bit slow and were able to work their way up into locking playoffs before the last game. So
yeah, for sure.
Says a lot.
Moving on to the last 2 teams in Sword Division. The Wet and Wild Wailords at 4-5 with a minus 2 differential. They are not able to make the second seed with a record of 4-5, but as long as they win their Week 11 match, they are locked into playoffs. They're locked into that wild card match. And then the Po-Tay-Toes, they're kind of like us and the Seniors and the Mudkips in that they're relying on another team to win in order to have a hope at moving up into the next bracket. They're really just fighting for a playoff spot at all, whereas we're hoping for the team above us to lose so we can move into the 2 seed and get a bye into top 8. They're hoping for just a playoff placement. So
they got to win and watch some matches and cross their fingers.
Yeah, so I don't think. I think the bigger mountain to climb here is going to be their own game because they're playing Team Pussy. but because the Wailords, I feel like probably won't show up one way or another. Either they're just going to forfeit, or they're going to throw some mons out on the field and not really prep and probably lose again like they did against the Delibirds. So it's good. That part is good for the Potatoes and good for their chances at making that 6th seed. But they have to overcome Team Pussy, which is no easy feat.
Yeah.
So I think kind of like the Delibirds are most likely to retain that 2 seed. The Wailords, I think, even if they take a loss, are most likely to retain the 6th seed. So they're probably going to be in that wild card round. So the Whalers don't show up. The Jurors just need to win since they have. The Jurors need to win for what to happen. I'm
no.
not sure what that refers to, because the Jurors can't make it right now.
They don't have enough wins.
Right. Or are they talking about the seniors because the Jurors are playing the senior? I don't know. Goomer, let us know what I don't know what you're referring to there. Let us know. Give us some clarification. Moving into Shield Division, we have the top 2 teams here, the Mats and Doesn't Click, both at 7-2, but with a pretty different differential here. The Mats at plus 14, pretty nice differential. Doesn't Click down at plus 8. Both of them, of course, have to make the 6th spot. You're talking about the Jurors making the 6th spot, because that can't.
I think they're talking about the Potatoes. Yeah.
Oh, the Potatoes. Okay. Wait, let's go back. So the Jurors need to win
And beat the seniors.
because Potatoes are at 6-3. They'll be at. No, Potatoes can't. Potatoes can't pass anybody except for the Wailords, because everybody above the Wailords has 5 wins. Potatoes can only get to 4 max. You have them and the Jurors mixed up. Okay, yeah. If the Whalers don't show up, the Potatoes then will just need to win, since they'll have minus. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, exactly. Because they'll be at -5. If you win with a +1 or anything. Yeah,
right, because if the Wailords just take the standard -3 on the differential from the forfeit loss, then they'll be tied in terms of differential. So
then they actually need to have a legit 1 Pokemon lead. They can't just win off HP, right?
Yeah, so because it'll go to head-to-head, and the Wailords did beat the Potatoes earlier in the season, so if they're tied on record and differential, it does go to the Wailords. Yeah. So they do need to win, 1-0 or 3-2. You can't let it go to time with the same amount of Pokemon on both sides, because then the Wailords take it. So yeah, they'll have to win with a +1 differential.
Yeah, no worries, Goomer. It's all good. We want to make sure we knew what you were talking about.
Yeah, no, I mean this is why we're streaming instead of just making a video. We want to talk to you guys.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm glad we clarified that. Moving on to Shield Division. Both these teams 7-2, both locked into playoffs. The Mats, like the Delibirds, if they just take a win here in week 11, boom, they're locked into the 2nd seed. They're locked into top 8. It's a done deal. Doesn't Click, because of the differential shift here, they do have to rely on the Mats losing, and they also have to win, which is rough because the Mats have an easier matchup going up against the Raiders, and Doesn't Click here has a much more difficult matchup going against the Cheek Drillers. Yeah. So that's not so good for Doesn't Click. That's kind of two big mountains to climb. And I guess if the Mats take a win, okay, here's an unlikely scenario, but if the Mats win and it's, a 2-2 ending, let's say, and Doesn't Click ends up getting a 6-0 against the Cheek Drillers, then Doesn't Click will actually pass them because they will be tied in terms of record and differential, and Doesn't Click does have the head-to-head advantage. So, if they both win, the Mats have to win with a +0 differential, and the Doesn't Click has to win with a +6 differential. That's the only way that Doesn't Click can pass them if they both take a win.
Yeah.
Probably not going to happen. So there's a couple scenarios like that with like really extreme differential shifts that are required for certain things to happen, that's one of them. But yeah, again, Matt's kind of like the Delibirds, most likely to take that second seed in their division. No, Hector, it is not hot tub time. We're saving that for later, maybe tomorrow. Next, we got the St. Louis Booloos with a 5-4 record and a +3 differential. They are actually the only team that are locked specifically into the wild card round. There is no way for them to drop out of the top 6 in Shield Division, and there's also no way for them mathematically to make the second seed. So regardless of how any of these games go, Booloos are in the wild card round. No way around that. They can't advance. They can't get to the bye, and they can't drop out of the wild card round. So they're in. The Geezers are basically locked into the wild card round. This is where some extreme shifts in differential could potentially put them into the 7th seed. Probably won't because of the differentials you'll see on the next page here with the Platinum Pixies and the Ally Switch Spammers. Both of them are at 3 and 6. Oh, I got one of these wrong. I think the Spammers are actually at -6 differential.
Gotcha.
Okay, one of them is at -5, the other's at -6. We're checking right now, but basically what these guys need to do is beat the other team on.
Pixies are at -5. Spammers are at -6.
Okay, so Pixies are correct. Spammers are just off by 1. Spammers should be at -6. So basically, both of these teams need to beat the other one in terms of their record and differential. Because they're so close. They're both at 3 and 6. Their differentials are incredibly close. If they happen to tie on record and differential, the Pixies do have that head-to-head advantage, so they're the favorite here to take the 6th seed by a tiny bit, not by much. But they both have tough games that they need to win, and they need to pay attention to the differential for sure. There are some extreme circumstances in which one of them, or potentially both, maybe could pass the Regigeezers if some crazy differential shit happens. Basically, since the Regigeezers are at +5, they would have to lose 0-6, and the Pixies would have to win 6-0 in order for the Pixies to actually be above them in terms of differential. Or no, they have to, well, 6-0 and 0-6, I don't think, but there has to be some crazy differential shit that happens here for the Pixies to pass the Regigeezers, because the Regigeezers would have a head-to-head advantage against the Pixies. The Spammers, however, would have a head-to-head advantage against the Reggies, so they're actually in the same position because the Spammers have a worse differential by 1. But they need 1 less differential because they if there's like a 5-0 and an 0-6 finish between these teams, something crazy could happen. But that's the only reason that mathematically the Geezers are not quite locked into the wild card round, but they basically are, because there'd have to be some crazy shit.
Not gonna lie,
yeah,
I want that 2nd seed.
of course,
But
if
they can 6-0 the Regigeezers, and then the Pixies and the Spammers sneak in,
would it be worth it?
Be amazing. not because of anything against the Geezers at all. Just because, like, how crazy would that be for all of that to happen? Yeah. So, we'll see.
But yeah, that's let's see. Oh, that's it. That's the end, because we already did the teams that are locked out of playoffs. So it's gonna be a really tough finish here in Shield Division, because it's gonna come down to Pixies versus Spammers, and I think a lot of us expected this last game where they played each other to be kind of the playoff match, especially if the Spammers won, because they went they went a lead. Yeah, they went into the match with a better record than the Pixies had, but because the Pixies won and their differentials are almost tied, it's anybody's game here.
Yeah.
So. And actually, if the Spammers can actually take a really dominant win against the Mudkips, the Pixies might have trouble getting actually getting into the playoffs, even if they get a forfeit win here, depending on how the differential goes, because they're only getting +3 if the Whalers don't show up. But at the same time, that puts them up at -2. So if the Spammers happen to win, then they would have to get they would have to get a +5 victory to get up to -1, because they're actually at -6. They don't have the head-to-head advantage, so they need their differential to be better than the Pixies. So they do need a 5-0 win against the Mudkips if the Whalers happen to forfeit. So that's that. It's going to be a crazy fight to see who's in what spot.
See this playoff picture here.
Yeah, and then of course after week 11 we will have our wild card matches set, and that'll be our. Shannon says it's not going to happen, so we'll see. If we get the +3 forfeit, Spammers we need 5-0, yeah. So it'll be interesting to see how all this plays out. We'll have our wild card matches locked after this week, and we'll see who's playing who, and then that will be our pick'em section for our week.
Yep, can't wait, guys. It'll be fun.
Anything left to say on this these playoff scenarios?
No, great job. Second to last power rankings video here. Gonna be exciting to go into the playoffs and actually start sorting these teams out, not just by our subjective opinions, but by going like, no, this team is actually the better team. They beat them in the playoffs, so that's always nice, and it's gonna be nice to see best of 3. Can't wait. It's gonna be fantastic.
Yeah, that's actually a good reminder. I would like to inform everybody, if you were not already aware, wild card matches are considered playoff games, and that means 2 things. Number 1, they are best of 3, because all playoff matches are best of 3, and number 2, the pre-playoff transactions are happening before the wild card round. So make sure you're prepared for that as well if you happen to be one of the wild card teams.
Yep.
Yeah.
Can't wait. And
Okay.
we'll see you guys tomorrow for the hot tub stream.
Yes, we will. All right. Good luck in our last cross division matches, guys, and we will